A while back, one of my friends asked me, Will, have you cried recently? And I was like, what do you mean? She said, like, have you bawled your eyes out recently? Like, just cry out of frustration. My answer then was, no, I haven't cried since I was a child. Like, tears have fallen out for certain situations, like my grandparents passing away and certain breakups, but I haven't bawled my eyes out since I was young. And I wasn't trying to be stereotypical, extra manly or whatever, but as a kid, crying was always something that happened naturally for me. I never had to like fake a cry or force a cry. And when those sad moments did happen, it wasn't that I didn't feel sad or that I was blocking my sadness purposefully, at least. Tears just never ran out. But next thing you know, a week after that conversation, I was bawling my eyes out and yelling into my pillow out of frustration. And because this was roughly over a month ago, I don't remember exactly what triggered this. I think I was just lying on my bed and reflecting on all my failed relationships and listening to a sad song when I just felt overwhelmed from everything. From these past 4 years of what feels like just failure in Korea, kind of exploding on my heart and then exposing itself in tears. And after crying it out for like a good 5 minutes or so, I was like, that felt good. I felt refreshed. I felt like a lot of weight just fell off my shoulder, and I was like, I should cry more often. So next time my friend asks me if I've ever, cried or bawled my eyes out recently, I'm gonna have to change that answer. Fortunately, this was over a month ago, and I can talk about it freely now. And a lot has happened since then because I actually just got back from my basically 1 month trip of solo traveling from 4 to 5-ish different countries. And I say 5-ish countries because I was only really in Malaysia for like less than 24 hours. So I don't know if I can really count that. But in order from where I went, I was in Japan for roughly a week, Tokyo, Osaka, Nara, and Kyoto. And then Singapore for another week. And then Philippines for another week roughly, specifically Boracay. And unfortunately only 3 days in Taiwan. And as great as it was also very exhausting. I was tired of being a tourist about halfway through. And to be honest, I'll do a recap on my trip in a different vlog or podcast because I really want to capture a different feeling in this video first before I talk about traveling. And so as soon as I got back from my 1 month trip, coincidentally, my mom sent me a message telling me that my brother had just got married. And just to clarify, not legally married quite yet, but marriage according to Hmong customs or cultural customs, which I think a lot of Asian Americans do, especially if they feel really attached to their own culture. They generally have two types of weddings, one according to their cultural customs, and then the other one, which is like the white wedding or the legal wedding with the bride and groom and at an altar and all that fun stuff. And I was like, cool, mom. Congratulations to my brother. That's like really exciting news, and I hope that everything went well and smoothly. But I did have to pause for a second before replying to my mom. Bear in mind, my mom doesn't actually follow me on Instagram, so generally she has no idea what I'm doing on a daily basis unless I tell her. And so the reason I paused for a bit was because I had to debate on whether or not I should actually update her on my own life, traveling to 4 different countries at this specific moment, or should I just kind of, wait and then share it with her a little bit later. And some of you guys might think it's kind of weird for me to not tell her anyways, but she also followed up with a wish you were here, we miss you a lot, and a please keep your heart open to new opportunities. Eventually you'll find the one when you least expect it. And as some of you may know, my family members aren't exactly supportive of me being here in Korea, because in some of their eyes I'm just kind of doing whatever I want and being irresponsible in some ways. And so after she sent me that, there was really no room, at least I felt like there was really no room for me to tell her about my travels, because even though it wasn't the official wedding, I wasn't home to support my brother and the family. Instead, I was just doing my own thing. So I wasn't gonna be like, oh great, mom, he got married, and guess what, even though I wish I was there, guess what I was doing? Just traveling the world. Anyways, my brother, who is 2 years younger than me, is getting married way before I am. I say way before I am because I am nowhere close to wanting to get married, nor am I anywhere close to even having a relationship where I can see marriage. But I think it's interesting to see how different our paths are now after 20 plus years of growing up together. I'm traveling the world, living in Korea, and trying to enjoy my youth. And of course he is too, but he's back in the States trying to build his career, bought a house, and just got married. And if I was to make a direct comparison, because it's hard not to, especially when it's your brother, a part of me says that what I just did is not as important as what my brother did, or not as valuable in terms of societal success, I suppose. For example, traveling is not as important as getting married. And I rationalize this thought because marriage, in my mind, is something that you really have to build up for. It requires a lot of time, effort, commitment, and it's just kind of scary. But traveling, in my eyes, is quite easy. It's just buying a plane ticket or even just walking a mile in any direction if you consider that as traveling. And in most cases, it just, I guess, requires money. And the other reason is the pressure and responsibility as the oldest to meet these standards that my family and many, I guess, Asian culture has in terms of normal societal success. In my opinion, success for many Asian cultures isn't happiness in itself. Rather, it's more about the happiness that you are awarded from after having accomplished certain goals in your life: a career, a house, family, wife, kids, etc. And in this definition of success, if I put our profiles out there on a blank canvas, let's say person A, he teaches English abroad. Person B, he's married, has a house, has a job. On profile, person B seems clearly more successful. And so for a second, I devalued my experience. But that's not something new, I suppose. I tend to have a problem with imposter syndrome. Rarely do I ever feel like I'm good enough or doing enough. And it tends to amplify whenever I am dealing with my family. It's definitely a trauma case, but it's something I'm working on, and in general still trying to learn how to not value others more over myself and just to give myself more credit where it's due. So the question is, am I moving in the right direction? And why do I continue to choose this direction even though it feels like my entire family is against it? And I think it also begs the question, how would my life be different if I had stayed in America for these 4 years instead of being in Korea? Fortunately, I have a lot of good friends who are very supportive of my travels and really made me feel better about my decision to travel in general, reminding me that traveling is also something that you won't always have the chance to do, especially while you are young and capable of adventuring. Especially because I went to like 4 or 5-ish different countries. And while most people are young, they're still very eager to experience something new. And also your body is still able to do what your mind says. So I think once I'm like in my 50s or 60s, I'll probably just travel for leisure purposes and not so much for adventuring or doing something spontaneous like going from Singapore to Malaysia at 9 p.m. just to drink and party. Anyways, I need to redefine or reorganize my thoughts about what it means to live life the way I'm living versus living the life that my parents want for me. Because at some point, I can't keep letting my parents or others define what I'm doing as just running away from my problems or putting a pause on my real life back home while I try to figure things out here. Especially after 4+ years of living in Korea, it's so much more than just that now. And so this year specifically, the process in making this decision to stay in Korea was quite simple. I'm staying in Korea because this is my life. Real life is where I am, and I'm going to prioritize life where I find my happiness. In other words, I am being selfish, and I'm openly being selfish about it. And I know it might sound heartless, like I don't care about my family or my life back at home, but really I'm just learning how to care more about me, and that's something I've never really done well. Like all these vlogs and videos that I've done about, mental health has always been the results of caring too much about someone else and breaking because I neglect my own personal health and happiness while doing so. But this time I know that I'm staying in Korea because it's a life that I really do enjoy, and it's a life that I want, at least at this moment. And maybe it's due to finally being able to travel and accomplish some of the goals that I had set out to do when I first came here. Or maybe it's because I'm starting to grow roots here as well. But ultimately, I think it's because as I grow older and start to understand myself and where I want to be in life, the things that make me happy aren't the same things as, for example, what my brother has or what my parents want from me, at least for now. And I'm not saying those things are wrong, because everyone has their own version of success and happiness in life. And it's not like I don't want to obtain those milestones in my own life eventually, but I just know that for me as an individual, milestones right now aren't the key to happiness in life. I don't want to be so fixated on this timeline for success, where I need to have certain things accomplished within a certain time frame, otherwise I feel like a failure. And I don't want to depend on milestones to feel like I'm growing as an individual, because at some point, it's going to be a codependency relationship with like yourself and these kind of materialistic achievements to feel like you're living life or feel like there is meaning in life. And I also think that's why a lot of rich people are crazy or unhappy. Like, why did Elon Musk feel the need to buy Twitter? Don't you have like 100 other things you could be doing? So back to the question, am I going in the right direction? And whenever I ask myself these types of questions, I always kind of slip into existentialism. Like, we're all gonna die anyways. So whatever path we take always leads to one end, which is kind of comforting in a way, I suppose. But I do think I am going in the right direction. Not one I expect or wanted when I first started, but I'm still here. I'm still living and learning and experiencing life. I don't think there is really a wrong direction. Maybe things would have been different if I was still in America, and maybe I would be married, have a wife and kids, a house, who knows. But also, I'm doing things I never thought I would do, or knew I would want to do, or knew I was capable of doing while living out here. And it's not like every day I'm rediscovering myself, but it does feel like I'm constantly on a path where I'm able to grow as an individual. And I like that. I like the version I'm becoming, and it makes me feel comfortable to be who I am even with my flaws. So after 4 years in Korea, I am finally moving to Seoul. It's been a long time coming, I think. And moving up to Seoul means I'm even more unsure of when I plan to leave Korea. But it's also not something I'm as worried about anymore. And so for now, I'm going to continue living my life more selfishly. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, leave a thumbs up, comment down below, subscribe, and hopefully I can fill you guys in on all the little deets about my travels in the next video. Until next time, bye!